Hello and welcome to our brand new show called Life Matters. I'm Richard Stringer.
I'm Gilly Franks.
And on the show we're going to be looking at a few things in life that we think really matter, combined with a few kind of spiritual elements as well. So Gilly, who have we got on the show today?
So our four special guests today are James Kemp, Teresa Moody, Michelle Sullivan and Nick Roach.
So there we've got quite a range of different things to talk about, but each show we're going to look at a common theme as well. So on today's show, the question we're asking, the big question if you like, is religion getting in the way of spiritual understanding? And to guide us through this, and indeed each week, will be our in-house spiritual medium, Mr. Paul Sissel. Paul, thank you very much for coming in. You're kind of going to be our guide, shall we say, for the series.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm going to be sitting here just helping you guys and supporting you guys and seeing where it takes us.
And that's the thing that we're saying as well, is that kind of we're looking at kind of the spiritual world and how that can help us in our everyday world, but also into kind of a few everyday topics as well.
Absolutely, yeah.
And from your point of view then, kind of we get into today's big question, religion and spiritualism, actually they share some kind of common ideas, some common themes.
Yeah, they do share a relationship with one another. A lot of people believe that spirituality and religion are two totally separate entities, but they're not. They come together, whether you're religious or not. They share a common belief.
And particularly, I would say, kind of our views on the afterlife as well is where a lot of kind of modern ideas of the afterlife come from religion.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, every religion embraces an afterlife and in a spirit world. Where it may conflict with what I do as a spirit medium is that not every religion embraces the idea of communication with the afterlife. Okay.
So in, for example, something like Buddhism where they believe in reincarnation, how does that kind of conflict or back up the things that you believe?
I would say, no, I'm a great believer in reincarnation, in that once we've passed over and we go into the spirit world, we are reborn again, or we can be through choice, and so yeah, I do support that.
So what if you don't choose to be reincarnated? Then what? What happens?
Well, again, here's the controversial subject. How much of it is free will? How much of it is karma? Are we forced to be reborn? Are we reborn through choice? Again, that is a completely different topic and a very in-depth one as well. Like,
yes, if I'm being reborn, am I coming back to this life again?
Do you want to come back to this life again?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Some people would think, oh my goodness, not again. I couldn't handle that. So.
The thing is, though, Gilly, we look at our lives from a physical perspective. We forget, in the physical sense, to embrace the spirit, the spiritual, and that's where it goes wrong, is we forget to embrace the spiritual in the physical world.
But then, again, kind of leading back to our big question for today, is that a lot of people, particularly in the modern age, have moved on to, shall we say, other religions, like super fandoms. If you have a particular sports personality or a particular music icon, that could almost be seen as a religion these days. Yeah. So again, how does that kind of, is it the same with the spiritual world, that it's taking people kind of off course, if you like? And
we've got to remember that we're not in the dark ages. We're in a very, very modern, changing world that changes so quick we can't keep up with it. Is religion how it used to be? No, it's not. It has to adapt with the times. As you've just explained, are these the new religions? Well, that's down to the individual to decide, isn't it, really?
But then in the same way that kind of a modern person is moving away from religion, are you seeing that with the work that you do, that people are moving away from their connection to the spirit world? People these days are embracing that connection. Religion taught separation. Yeah. These days we're understanding that there is no separation between ourselves and the afterlife. And what we do as a spirit medium is we are bringing you back together again. And that idea of bringing back together, then, what benefits can an individual see from that connection? It's going to give us a greater understanding of the world that we live in, because we become in harmony with ourselves. We become at one with ourselves, and we get to co-create. We get to create the lives that we want for ourselves, and we get to understand ourselves more from a place of spirit than just flesh and blood.
Now, we're going to talk more about that with our guests coming up, but I think we should find out from the audience what they think about it.
Yeah, before I open the big question. So, I mean, guys, this is your chance. Is there anything either you kind of want to add to the conversation, or anything you'd like to ask Paul specifically? Is there anybody here that still holds on to kind of the traditional idea of religion? Have you, why,
Can I
why have
speak to you
moved
about
against
that? So, why don't you hold on to that then?
I don't need it.
Okay, because
Because I just don't need it. It's as simple as that. Because from my spiritual life, I get all I need.
okay, so would you say you're a very spiritual person? Is there anything in particular you practice?
Yes, I'm a teacher. I teach Reiki.
Oh, okay.
I've taught Reiki for 20 years.
Oh, wow. And how's
Um,
that been going?
Well, it's part-time. It's just my life. And spirituality is my life.
And at what point did you change to being more spiritual, if you like?
Well, when I was 11, my mum told me that I wasn't to mix with spiritual people.
Oh,
And guess what?
So I suppose it's one of those things of if you, as a child, you're told not to do something, you almost
Yeah.
want to do it a bit more.
Absolutely, always.
See, I was brought up in quite a religious household. I went to a Church of England primary school, and it's, again, almost having it thrust upon you from an early age, again, almost makes you want to flip. And I actually found that kind of organised religion just wasn't for me. I think it's one thing that kind of defines us as a people is how we kind of treat end of life. I mean, would you agree with that, Paul?
Yeah, definitely. And then again, you know, the modern world now, there are so many different ways and views of how to approach the subject. Yeah, I don't think anyone is wrong and any one of them is right, you know.
I suppose because that's it again. Obviously, each of the religions teaches us that there is some form of afterlife, and I think modern life, the opinion is that no, it's just black. That's it. It's the end. And I think even as somebody that's not religious, I kind of fail to see that it just stops. I think there's your energy transfers in some manner or form. Would you guys agree with that? I mean, anybody kind of got any personal views on that at all?
I like thought, I don't know which religion it actually
I'm sorry.
it actually has anything to do with, but when a person dies, you open the window and let the spirit
Yes.
go. I'm thinking, is that just spiritualism, or is it part of a religion? I'm not sure, but I like that thought that something here has got nothing to do with my body. Once I'm dead, my body means nothing. What's left?
I suppose one thing that I've kind of picked up on recently is that point where science, religion and spiritualism all converge. And it's the idea that kind of where the energy, so your spirit as a form of energy, doesn't disappear, okay? It just changes state. And even with things like kind of you're putting petrol in your car and it helps your car to go, it's not that you're using that energy, you're just kind of expressing that energy and then it becomes something else. And I think kind of you as a person, what defines you does the same sort of thing. I think kind of, for me personally, again, it's the idea that the universe has a great plan. Whether you believe in a person or a deity or whatever, I think the universe kind of has this ideal for you. And it's what we were saying a bit in the green room as well, is that kind of those points where science and spiritualism converge is that kind of there's almost an alternate version of this earth,
Yeah.
and then there's that plane in between where the two cross over.
Yeah, definitely. And, you know, and I think that, you know, a lot of people try to push science away, and I think it's very important not to push it away and to actually embrace it into the concept of spirituality and religion, because we need all three to go in harmony within the world that we live in.
Fantastic. And that brings us on quite nicely. I think it's probably time we bring on our first guest. Actually, our first guest today is James Kemp. He works for a group that organises paranormal tours, and so that's what we're talking about, is the idea of kind of the afterlife, if you like. And I suppose it's time to get him on here and start asking him a few questions of some of the things maybe he's experienced. So James, first of all, welcome to the show. You have the great honour of being our very first guest.
Amazing.
Not too daunting for you, hopefully.
No, it's fine.
So just give us and the audience a little bit of background for this. Kind of who are you? What is it that you do?
Okay, for over 12 years now, I've been heavily involved in the supernatural. I've been to many haunted locations across the UK and also in America, and I look at most things from a medium's point of view, but I have studied parapsychology as well, so I'm more or less investigate different buildings just to see what happens and what does occur.
And kind of part of what you do then is you invite the public kind of to join you on that journey, and that's believers and skeptics alike.
Yeah, on most events, we have members of the public there, and we'll try guiding them through different experiments, see if they can experience supernatural for themselves. Of course, there is other ones where we do more of a private based, but yeah.
So, James, have you had any sceptical people there and proved them wrong?
I think it's very hard to say to prove them wrong, but I will say if there has been a few people that has actually came along, and at the start of the actual evening, it's like, oh, I'm not too sure about this, you know, I don't really believe it. And at the end of the night, they will say, actually, I did see something, it was amazing. Now, it might be something small or whatever else, but because it's very personal to them, they witnessed it, they go taking away something with them.
Would you say then somebody that is either kind of more in tune with that sort of world or more receptive to it, are they more likely to experience something?
I do believe if there is, say, a group of believers, they are more likely to get something, whether that is more paranormal terms or not, but my personal view is it's probably best to be somewhere in between, because then you're going to question it from both angles.
Okay.
What's the most exciting hunt you've done? Have you experienced anything like totally out there?
In my years of doing this, I've experienced some things that even I find hard to believe, and I've seen things from tables lifting up into air to things being moved, and
Oh my goodness.
seeing full figures and everything else. And like I said, some things it's very hard to believe, but I know because I was there and there's other people there, it did actually happen.
And you sleep okay at night?
Yeah, no, that's fine.
I think that's the difference, is kind of what we're saying is that you do both ghost tours and ghost hunts. So I would then say, from kind of a neutral perspective, what's the difference?
Okay, with the ghost hunts, we're actually investigating the building. With the ghost tours, we're actually telling the ghost stories,
Okay.
and we actually play a part of the ghost, believe it or not.
Okay.
And the interesting thing is with the ghost tours is we actually find out a lot of ghost stories, and even though it's out there in books and stuff like that, we have different people now that come on, so it's like, oh yeah, that ghost story you mentioned, it's very strange, you know, 10 years ago I worked in that building and what you described still happened to me then.
Wow.
But then again, on the kind of the ghost hunts necessary, is it then you do your research before, or is it after, once you've spoken with these people?
Most of the ghost hunts we will actually do research after, because we'll go to the location, try to have an open mind about it, because sometimes if you do research it beforehand, you can be highly influenced to where to go or what to look for, sort of thing. So it's best to go out there or to the location with not knowing anything.
So Paul, then, just coming to you quickly, is that he's looking at particular locations. So would you say that a spirit can be tied to a location, or are they a free roaming entity?
Well, again, it's a complex subject, as James will tell you. You know, every haunting is very different. First of all, we have to determine whether it's a haunting of the land. Is it the haunting of a building? Is it a haunting of a person? So you've got a number of different types of hauntings that will determine whether a spirit is confined within the walls of that premises, or whether it can actually move about from location to location.
So that's interesting. So have you ever experienced where you've brought something home with you?
There's not really. There's probably been one occasion where I thought, you know, it seems a bit odd and everything, and it's almost like I came home from a ghost hunt and there's like someone standing in a bedroom, but I just thought, you know, I'm at home, I can't really be bothered with it, you know, go do what you want, sort of thing. But then again, I did live in a haunted manor for 2 years, and during that time it was like, let's go do a ghost hunt during the evening and then go upstairs and go to bed. And as soon as I used to get in bed, just used to forget about it. And okay, there was an odd time where I used to get woke up by things moving and whatever else, but no, that's just one of those things.
At least you're never alone.
Yeah, very true.
So was it living in that kind of manner that's kind of spurred your interest in this, or was it, I mean, where did the idea come from to do these sorts of tours?
Well, with living in that manor, it was about 7 years ago, but I've been doing this for over 12 years now. Believe it or not, my interest probably started when I was very young. I had different paranormal experiences, from poltergeist activity to seeing different spirits, and I was always interested from reading books and stuff like that in the library about ghosts, and it just started from there.
And have you ever come across something with maybe a bit more of a malicious intent?
I suppose it depends on what way you look at it. And I have been into buildings where things have been thrown, like I said, but sometimes I do believe that is it actually an evil spirit, or is a spirit, you know, not knowing if they're dead, and they're like, what are you doing in my house? And of course they're trying to do anything to get this person out.
So I suppose that's what we were talking about earlier,
Yeah.
Paul, is that kind of, they're almost trapped between those two worlds. Sometimes the person or the spirit will know that they're trapped, and other times they're still under the illusion that they're alive.
Absolutely. What we've got to remember, Rich, also is that as the spirit has left the physical into this other world, that their communication, the way they communicate, is different. And what we often see as being more violent encounters with spirit are merely the spirit just trying to get our attention. Maybe they are looking for help, support in some way. We see it as being malevolent in some ways, but actually it could be that just their means of trying to get our attention, to say, I'm here.
Would you say like maybe some spirits have more energy? So although the glass is being thrown across the room, it's just because it's got more physical energy behind it?
Yeah, I mean,
Rather
I
than-
struggle a little bit with the on a lot of paranormal investigations where the stones get thrown. I can understand it, but I always say, well, if you can throw a stone, why not just get a bloody big brick and lob it at someone?
yeah,
You
so-
know,
so
it's
why-
the same.
yeah.
It takes the same energy. You know.
Okay. It's interesting what you're saying about communication, that they struggle to communicate with us, and that's obviously where necessarily you'd have certain pieces of equipment to do it. Can they communicate with each other?
Yeah.
That's a good question.
So, I mean, again, that's interesting. So, obviously, with your investigations, then, would it be that kind of you've got pieces of equipment, or do you have people that are kind of psychically tuned to help you out with that?
We do have mediums as well, but we do use different equipment. However, most of our equipment is actually to prove it's not paranormal related.
Okay, that's
So
interesting.
like an EMF meter, a lot of people will class it as a ghost detector. Actually, it detects high levels of electromagnetic fields, which of course can cause hallucinations within the brain.
Wow.
So there's a lot of equipment
That's
there
interesting.
that actually says, you know, it can be explained non-paranormal terms.
So if we just kind of step back for a moment there, Paul, we were saying is how do these spirits go about communicating with each other? Is it just like we're doing now, we're having a conversation, or is there other forces at work?
The mind sees what the mind wants to see, and just because we are a spirit doesn't mean to say that we're necessarily going to see other spirits. You know, it's a complex level of, you know, frequency, understanding, and in the same way that on the physical, if we don't want to see something or believe in something, we're not going to. Over there, it can be exactly the same principle as well.
I suppose, Julie, have you ever seen a ghost?
I haven't seen an actual person, but I've seen a lot of light movements. Like, have you heard, you
Yeah.
must have had people talk to you about that. So a lot of bright lights coming across, TV turning on and off, keys disappearing like in and out of lock, and heating going on and off, which is costing me a fortune. Not happy about that.
But actually, a lot of times, like you're saying with the electromagnetic forces, kind of a change in temperature is often a sign that something's
that-
going on.
That's actually quite interesting, a change in temperature. And it actually goes back to the Victorian times. Of course, the Victorians didn't have all our scientific knowledge and our technology, and if they actually believed that if a spirit was around, if it was hot, it would make the air go cold because they would take the energy out of the air. Of course, vice versa, if it was cold, if they make it go hot. So, of course, even though today you probably see programs on like the TV and stuff where people are still trying to find cold spots and hot spots because
Yeah.
there is still that theory attached to it. If there's a ghost around, they're going to produce a change in temperature.
I would like to ask a question on orbs, actually, because I've had a lot of experience in this. So I went to a place in Germany that was an old courthouse, and we were filming something, and then put the phones on. We all started filming, and orbs were just flying across. And as soon as I sort of screeched, made a loud noise, there was more orbs faster coming across. But then someone's telling me that's dust particles. So
Can be. Or
what-
are you stood in a
what's-
field full of fireflies, maybe?
No.
I suppose that, again, that's exactly the sort of stuff you were saying, is that your equipment then helps to kind of disprove whether it is
Yeah.
something kind of metaphysical or if it's something like dust particles.
Yeah, with orbs, I know if they're very big out in the paranormal, of course there's many beliefs out there. Is it dust particles? Which I know some cameras now actually have it in the booklet about orbs and stuff.
Oh, really?
But of course, there is other people in the paranormal that believe orbs is the first stage of manifestation of the ghost. So of course, I suppose really with the paranormal, there's so many different views, so many different points and everything, and it all depends what you want to believe.
Yeah, I still think it was spirits, lots of them. I could feel it.
I suppose that's kind of the best piece of equipment you can have as part of your toolkit. It's just your natural kind of reflexes, your natural senses.
Yes. I think at the end of the day, if you go into a location, you can have as much equipment as you want. Anything you call or whatever else, of course, it can be easy disproved. I think most things, if you can take something away with yourself, personal, where you have just seen something or whatever else, of course, then that's inside of you sort of thing. And you've got a story to tell and everything else.
But then, Paul, can anybody experience this? Can anybody be trained to kind of tune in to that plane, if you like?
We're all tuned into that plane. It's whether we want to hear, understand, accept that plane. So we all get conditioned by life. So for some people, they remain very natural to that plane of existence. For others, then it is then going away and maybe learning how to retune back into it again and how to listen to it.
Fantastic. I suppose then, last question for me, James, is going back to a kind of a big theme for the day. So I would assume that kind of on a lot of the things, you get people that are quite religious, that kind of they have their views. How would you say that kind of what you do and religion, how do the two mix?
I think it's a very interesting point. We try not to be religious in any way. I know sometimes people will do a ghost hunt and they like to start off with the Lord's Prayer. Certain religions will say a ghost isn't a ghost, it's actually more demonic, and there's something going on there. Ideally, we try to have a neutral balance with it, but of course, if it's someone's personal beliefs, they may have different beliefs attached to that, and of course, what we call ghosts, they may call something else.
Fantastic. Well, James, that's brilliant talking to you. Thank you very much for joining us.
And now for our next guest, Teresa Moody, who specialises in holistic treatments. So, Teresa, what does that actually mean?
Okay, so
straight into the deep end here. Hard question.
Okay, so holistic. I'm a holistic therapist. I'm also a fitness instructor. Holistic to me means mind, body, soul. Okay, so my work is based on helping people have a healthy mind, healthy body. Working in harmony, really, so they can achieve more of a stress-free life.
I suppose it kind of harps back to those days at school with the mathematics triangle, like speed, distance, duration, stuff like that. Is that you kind of...
We're doing maths now.
Well, it's kind of like...
Balance.
In order to have the balance.
Exactly.
That's exactly what I was alluding to. So you kind of... Obviously, if your mind and your body are there, it'll help your soul. If your soul and your mind are there, it'll help your body. And again, it's kind of getting all those three elements
in
kind
sync.
Of in sync.
So holistic, it's the same as everything working in synergy.
Okay. So what treatments fall under holistic treatments?
Oh, crikey. So, so we start with healing. So Reiki, some of the audience I heard as a Reiki teacher as well. Massage.
Yeah.
So there's lots of different massages out there. Massage
I could
techniques.
definitely do with lots of those.
Yeah, they vary from hot stone massage to Swedish massage, Indian head. Aromatherapy, and again with aromatherapy, we're introducing essential oils that bring harmony to the mind and the body as well.
So that's where the name of your company comes from, the Heaven Sent, spelt as in the kind of the smells and the...
Absolutely, because using smells is good healing for our mind and body as well.
What about meditation? People talk about meditation all the time and how good it is for you.
Meditation's important, of course, for everyone, but again, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to spend however long a day just sitting there in silence. People find that really difficult to quiet their mind. There's other ways of meditating, and it's just literally, can just be from just breathing, you know, which is more important than anything. We all need to breathe. We all forget how to breathe. You laugh, but it's true, you know, to actually just concentrate on just taking a few deep breaths and taking a moment for yourself every day is enough in the form of a meditation.
I suppose it doesn't necessarily have to be in those stressful situations. It can just be get to the end of the
Absolutely.
day, control your breathing, reflect on what's happened, and then again it helps you move into the next day.
So I like to talk to my clients about just like a 3-sigh technique, and you can use it throughout the day. So we all live busy lives, so we're rushing from one place to another. Paul knows that about me. But just taking that time between each task to just breathe and let it go. You forget about being caught up in that past moment and allow yourself to enter the new moment feeling refreshed and focused. So it's that simple. You know, meditation, people, I can't meditate. In actual fact, we can. It's easier than what we realise.
Okay. Well, speaking of clients, what sort of clients do you work with? Like, if we go back to our subject, is religion getting in the way of spiritual understanding? Would you say you get a lot of spiritual people, or?
I get a mixture. Yeah, obviously, because I offer quite a wide range of treatments. So, you know, get your general person that comes for massages, you know. A lot of the time they wait till they're injured, or you know, they can't move, they've hurt their back, something like this, and then they come and want to be repaired. You know, I try and promote you know, precaution really. So, you know, should be taking more care of themselves so they don't find themselves in that state to start with.
So you give me permission to have a massage once a week?
Absolutely. On the other basis, with the more spiritual kind of treatments, you know, crystal healing and Reiki and things like that, and reflexology. I tend to find that the clients are a little bit more spiritual or based clients, or if they're not, they're interested. They have an interest and maybe have not yet explored it. So sometimes they're coming for answers.
Yeah.
I've always wanted to try this, so I thought I'd come and try it, rather than waiting till they needed to be rebuilt.
That's interesting to say, because aren't you from more of a fitness sort of a background?
I am actually. Well, it kind of has run in sync, but for the last 20 years I've been involved in both. But the majority of the earlier 15 years was more fitness, although I had a couple of holistic studios and fitness studios. I used to leave that for my employees to do to do that side, and they focus more on the fitness side of things. Again, you know, strong believer in you know, healthy body, healthy mind, and it all works together, really, doesn't it? So
absolutely.
I suppose that's interesting, because I mean, Paul, we've spoken a bit before about kind of like almost people, the idea of the guardian angel almost. You've got that kind of spirit guide attached to you. Does that then link in quite with the kind of holistic lifestyle?
Well, again, you know, spirit guides are a completely different subject, really, from what we're talking about here. You know, when we're talking about, meditation, it's about getting in tune with yourself. You know,
but then can that help you kind of get in tune with that world?
If that's what you want to do. I mean, some people, before they attune themselves to spirit, whether if they are a working medium, you know, may possibly use meditation or visualization techniques in order to get themselves to that point, using the breath as well.
Okay. So again, from my perspective, obviously what you're looking at is very much kind of that self-promotion, that kind of very much the kind of, right, you get your mind, your body and your soul all working together as one. Is it either to kind of achieve a personal goal or just be centred in yourself?
I think to be more centred and actually just to have time for yourself. You know, which I said before, we all lead busy lives, we get caught up in the moment, get caught up in dramas, and just actually take that time, whether it be half an hour treatment, an hour treatment, to just allow that time to be for you, to switch off and relax.
So is there something that we all can be doing on a fairly regular basis then to kind of help us centre that?
Breathing. Just breathing. Just, I think, you know, it is as simple as that. Just, you know, it's something that we can just take, whether you wake up in the morning, we all take the time to clean our teeth. You know, why can't we take the time to just say, I'm going to just sit here and breathe?
So what do you mean by breathing? Do you mean like just sit there, relax?
No, I don't mean childbirth breathing.
Okay. Different kind of activity.
He wouldn't understand childbirth breathing.
Just to take a focus on your breath. Breathe in and let it out. Just feel any stress release. We can just do that 3 times, and then just focus on your breath, and then just let the breath go, and let the mind come back into.
Is there a certain technique then you recommend? Because again, some people like sports injury stuff like they say in through the mouth, out through the nose, or vice versa.
Well, again, because I teach Pilates, so obviously Pilates is one of the principles of Pilates is breathing. It's different breath that we use in Pilates to yoga. So that's a good technique to use. Again, it's about control, so we're controlling our breath. So again, yes, we breathe in through the nose, we breathe out through the mouth. And with that, I do teach to try and train the breath to be the same length on the way in and the way out.
Yes, I've heard that one.
So it's more controlled. And yeah, like I explained before, the other breathing is as simple as just allowing yourself to sigh. Take a deep breath in and just let it out.
Okay, so Teresa, can you give us an example of this breathing? Because I'm really intrigued.
Okay, no problem. So if we can all just place our feet on the floor. Lovely. So you can keep your eyes open, or you
I'm not
can
going to
close
fall
your
asleep,
eyes.
am I? So I'm technically
And when
working.
your eyes are closed, I'm going to leave the room.
Look and see,
No, okay, so joking aside now, I want us to just take a nice deep breath in, breathe in through the nose, and just sigh. Allow that sigh.
What if maybe you can't breathe in through your nose? So I've got this issue where I had my nose broken when I was quite young, and now I can breathe through my nose, but I don't get the same amount of oxygen as if I breathe through my mouth. Can you alternate the technique, or does it have to be through the nose?
I'm sure you can alternate the principle's still there, isn't
Okay.
it? That
You'll
you're gonna
have to,
be
basically.
breathing and releasing. Okay, should we start again? So we're going to take a deep breath in, and I want you to just sigh. When you feel ready, take the second breath and sigh. But I want you to notice that gap between the breath becomes that little bit longer. When you're ready, take the third breath and sigh. And now just stay focused on your breath from your abdomen, breathing in and out.
So actually with this technique as well is that you're getting more oxygen to the brain and kind of helping the brain then to kind of.
So what we don't want to do is stay in this zone for too long on that deep breathing, because you are going to get too much energy in the body and you will start to feel fidgety. So from there, what we're going to do, just spend a little bit, 30 seconds just focusing on that breath, that deeper breathing, and then I'm just going to say breathe freely. And just notice how you just feel more relaxed.
Feel excited.
And it's as simple as that.
Then go out and run a marathon.
Yeah.
Yes,
You can join me, it's fine.
Okay, so Teresa, can we talk about healthy eating?
If you would like to.
Well, as we were saying, it's all that mind, body,
Yeah, of course
spirit. So
it is.
again, as well as remembering to breathe, it's kind of the fuel that you put into your body can have a great
Absolutely.
impact on, again, kind of your personal well-being and indeed your mental well-being.
Well, of course, as the saying goes, we are what we eat.
Yes.
So you were mentioning before about putting fuel in a car. It's exactly the same thing. So I think there's enough out there these days that people know what they should and shouldn't be eating. So it's all down to our own choice, isn't it? And again, that does link back in with what I was saying about looking after yourself, spending time with yourself, allowing yourself, whether it be a massage or a treatment or just exercise. It makes allows your mind to be more positive and stronger to make healthier choices. So again, the whole thing is linked in, and this is where I'm coming from on that whole holistic basis.
But then I think as well, you've got to keep a few little luxuries.
Oh,
in life.
absolutely.
You've got to treat yourself every now and again.
We're all, yes, and I'm a true believer in that, of keeping it real.
Yeah.
So, allow yourself to have the treats.
So can I ask you, are you vegetarian or vegan, or are you straight down the line?
Actually, no. I just eat pretty healthily, really.
Yeah.
And I'm not a massive meat eater, I will say, but I'm not vegetarian.
So balanced diet.
Yeah, just balance. I just think
exercise.
everything within balance.
Yeah. We like that word.
We like that.
I think that's it's interesting. It's even again, some of our favourite treats, like kind of our weekend or Friday night takeaway.
Absolutely.
There are plenty of kind of healthier options
there
that a
is,
lot of
yeah.
these places are offering now. But that's all we've got time in this part of the show. Thank you, Teresa, for coming in. But Julie, who have we got in the next part?
Yep, so coming on next, we have Michelle Sullivan, who specialises in mediumship, and author and spiritual teacher Nick Roach.
Fantastic. Well, I'm looking forward to that. Don't forget in the break to subscribe, but we'll see you very soon. Well, welcome back to Life Matters. I'm Richard Stringer.
And I'm Gilly Franks.
And we've got another 2 guests to join us shortly. But who have we got first, Julie?
So, Michelle, you are a medium, is that right?
Yes.
So I've been so excited to have you on the show, but one of the questions I really want to ask you is, are you naturally born with this? Or is it something that you can later on develop?
Yes, I was naturally born with the gift of speaking to the spirit world, but I do believe that people can develop the gift as well, yeah.
So what age did you kind of feel that you had this gift?
Just at the age of 6. I got no memory before the age of 6, so it's like my first memories. I was just intrigued. They were like my best friends, the people in the other worlds.
So what was your first experience?
I used to keep a diary of predictions, and I just thought it was normal, that it was what people did about the future, what was going to happen.
So were you like predicting people's future, like people in your family or whoever you came across? And would you tell them what you were thinking?
Sometimes I did, but really I sort of kept it to myself.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Is that through kind of fear of what people might think about you then?
Let me think about that.
Or was it a case of that kind of you
I
just, it
think
was
when I
something
was
private?
a kid, I was just a bit of a loner, and I think that was part of what developed my connection to the spirit world. So that was like my family, the other worlds.
And you call it a gift rather than an ability? I mean, why is that?
Why do I call it a gift? Well, I think it's a real honour and a real gift to be able to help people connect with their loved ones.
So I know it's different for different people, but how do you get in touch? Do you see things physically or do you hear things?
Both.
Okay, so you get to do
I use all of the senses. My strongest, it's changed over the years, was clairvoyant. That was my strongest. And I always remember once I was to do a demonstration. It was actually with Paul years ago. And I thought, well, this would be all right because I can see this spirit world with my clairvoyant gift. So it's no problem. I haven't got to feel nervous. And I got up there and my clairvoyant gift turned into clairaudient, so I couldn't see them. And apparently this is what the spirit world can do, you know, to develop you further and keep you on your toes, I suppose. So I was a bit like, when I couldn't see them, yes.
So was it quite scary at first then? Obviously going back to those first memories, was it, obviously, did you understand what was going on around you?
What, when I was a kid?
Yeah.
It wasn't scary, no. It was more comforting, really. It wasn't scary.
So Paul, is this similar for you? These kind of experiences?
Every medium has a different story to tell, and you know we all work very, very differently. And we just adapt with our spirit communicators, those people that help us in spirit, in the best way for us as an individual, really.
So some people that we've spoken to elsewhere say that they often have a guide, somebody that leads them or helps them to communicate with their soul. Is that the same for you, or is it purely through your own skills?
Yeah, no, my spirit guide, yeah.
Can you tell us a bit about your guide? And kind of, is it a person or is it a manifestation? Who are they?
My spirit guide, I believe that we all have a spirit guide. We're all born with our spirit guide, and our spirit guide knows us probably better than we know ourselves, and has been with us many lifetimes.
I feel sorry for mine.
But years ago, when I first started developing this more, I was a bit scared. Spirit guide? So I used to say it was my nan, but I know it wasn't. But to my logical mind, you know, it made me feel more comfortable.
So it's more of that nurturing figure then, is why you called it nan?
Yeah.
So for all our people at home and people watching, how can they get in touch with their own spiritual guide, or, you know, feel like they've got someone guiding them, if you like?
I think it's quite good and quite fun to practice. I used to do this years ago. I used to say, if you're really there, spirit guide, then make the radio in the kitchen go off. Or if I was going shopping and only had £5 to spend and I wanted a pair of red shoes, I'd ask them to present those pair of red shoes.
I do that, but it doesn't
Do you?
happen. I'm waiting for my red shoes.
Let's just hope the house falls on somebody and you can get some. It's,
I've been asking for a lot of things, so when I go home this evening, I'm expecting them all waiting for me.
But actually this kind of then, it ties in quite nicely. Is that, I believe, Julie, you've got a separate programme from this that kind of links in, and you actually work together on this first programme.
Yes, communicating with the spirits. So this is where we go filming various spirits, so I'm very excited about this to see what we're going to find.
And I think we've actually got a clip of the first episode.
Yes, let's take a look.
Right, we need to liven up our energies. Let's talk to the new ladies that haven't been before.
I kind of wanted to see what it was all about and kind of how it works and what you do, because I've had my cards read and I've had like my palm read and things like that one-to-one, but I've never been in like a group situation before, so it's just kind of interesting to see how you go from one person to the other and the different sort of things you do. So yeah.
All mediums work differently, so it'll always be a different experience. Yeah. Have you got people over in the spirit world that you'd like to connect with? Can you understand Dad over in the spirit world? No. Tissues. Who knows Peter? Strong. Yeah.
Yes, my dad.
Yeah, no. Going nowhere.
Fantastic. Well, I'm certainly interested to see kind of more of that, but that was with a group session there. Is it kind of our groups what you normally work with, or do you normally tend to go for the one-on-one?
Yeah, I'll do both, one-to-one readings and demonstrations. I love the demonstrations.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, so I spoke to you earlier about your passion, which is law of attraction. So I know there's a lot of people that follow that at the moment and like to read about it and have a keen interest. What can you tell me about it?
What can I tell you about the law of attraction? Oh, it's brilliant. It can really, really change lives, I do believe. And I do believe I helped a guy who lost his family, his 4 kids, his wife, his home through drugs and ended up on the streets. And I just felt so inspired by my spirit guide to say this. I was thinking, no, shut up, I can't. But I couldn't help myself. The words just come out, and I ended up telling this guy all about the law of attraction and suggesting that he gets the book, The Secret. And he came back 3 years later, and he got his house back, his kids back, and he says it's all down to using the philosophy of the law of attraction. Yeah, I just love it. I feel that we have choices whether we want to be happy or not.
So it sounds like you've got a really kind of good, not only kind of working relationship with your spirit guide, but quite a good kind of social relationship as well. I mean, is that something that you've certainly seen, Paul? Is that they guide you personally through life as well as helping you with your work?
We're all inspired by spirit. Are we inspired by spirit? Are we inspired by something that is more than ourselves? So a bigger part of ourselves that is actually guiding us as opposed to an external force. Certainly, there are many laws that are governing all of this. But as Michelle was stating, that it is possible that once we get in tune with ourselves, and connect to spirit, that it is possible then to manifest, some of those dreams and the hopes, in how we're trying to create our lives, how we're trying to change our lives, and if, as the story that Michelle was just talking about, how it can transform or help to transform somebody else's life from, going from, being in a very bad place to discovering how they can rebuild, just by getting in touch with themselves, getting in touch with spirit, and listening to that inner guidance.
Something I've always been curious about then is this a permanent connection? Is the kind of metaphysical doorway always open, or is it something that, kind of a question to both of you, is it something that you open as and when you need it, and then you close it before you return to normal life?
The spirit world?
Yeah.
Yes, good question. Wow. For me, that was one thing I had to learn in my training, was how to turn it on and off, because I was just always switched on. And I do believe that when you do walk the path of a medium, if the spirit world want you working, they get you working. I remember one night I went out on my own. I had my own little Christmas party. Walked straight into the pub. Says this bloke, "All right, mate, And I said, "How's whatever your wife?" He went, "Are you joking?" I went, "What?" He goes, "You don't know, do you?" I'm like, "Are you taking the mickey, Misha?" No. Anyway, what my point is, I didn't know, but sadly she passed over young in her 40s. And what my point is, I was going out to get drunk and have fun, but I ended up working as a medium in the pub on my party night.
Wow. That's quite powerful. So then, on reflection of that, can leaving that doorway or that window open, can that be dangerous? I mean, Paul, what would you say to that?
Dangerous in the untrained hands, yes. You can never really disconnect yourself. Once you've opened that gateway to another world, you can never really disconnect yourself from it. It's a matter of just turning the volume up and down. Okay. Do you want to listen? Don't you want to listen? If we cut ourselves off completely, we're going about our everyday lives, and if we're disconnected from ourselves and disconnected from something that's greater than ourselves, then we're not going to hear, those hidden messages that we all have around us, that are showing us that, where to go, how to do it, is that the right path? We're not going to be listening to that if we completely cut ourselves off.
So for somebody like Michelle that kind of was born with this gift, this ability, is then the training then helps to learn how to turn that volume down.
Yeah. Some people are very, very sensitive to spirit, hypersensitive, and they struggle to attune themselves to the physical plane. Hence, it's learning how to just pull back a little bit and not listen until you actually need to listen, and then step back in again. So it's like having one foot in this world, another foot in another world. And so what you're doing is you're bringing this foot back into this world and vice versa.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, I think it's all fascinating stuff. And Michelle, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
So don't forget, if you want to get involved in the conversation here on the show, you can find us on all of the social media platforms. Just look for Spiritual Productions, and this is, of course, Life Matters. But, Gilly, I think it's time to get another guest.
Yes, please welcome Nick Roach, who is our author and spiritual teacher. So, our subject today, which is religion getting in the way of spiritual understanding. Can you tell us what the difference is between the both?
So have you kind of had much experience kind of obviously in your journey where kind of maybe you've come up against somebody that is very religious and they kind of then close off to some of the spiritual world?
For me, all the spiritual teachings I know about are based around someone, all the religions are based around one person who's realised that everything is one, everything's connected. Whether it's Buddhism, the Hinduism, Christianity, and all the others, about one being, God, Brahman, in the Hindu religion, and one realises that, and they teach that, and they teach how they did it or how to realise it, and then after they've gone, other people come along and make a religion of it, and they worship the man who told them, even though they often said, don't have any idols at all, you are it, but they worship the man who said it, and make a religion about them or worshipping something up there, even though all the religions have said, to realise it as yourself. You are it. There is only one. self-realization, God-realization.
So I suppose it's that famous scene in The Life of Brian, is it, where they're arguing, do they follow the shoe or do they follow the gourd?
Yep.
In actuality, we should follow neither and just kind of learn from the messages rather than from the person.
If we're looking for, it's got many names, spiritual enlightenment, self-realization, God-realization, it's within yourself. To realize something over there is silly because you're not over there. You've got to be within yourself. So whatever you realize, it has to be you.
So how long have you been teaching for now?
Teaching, I wrote the first book in 2004, so that's 15 years.
Yeah.
But it's always been a bit of a hobby. I've had a full-time job as well, and just have the website and the books and do talks occasionally, and so it's all still quite low-key.
And how many books have you written now?
I've written 4 books.
4 books, okay. So that must keep you busy.
It has done. They sort of wrote themselves. The first one, after giving talks at a few holistic shows, realised we were getting the same questions all the time, and so over a few days, Sally would write a few headings, suggested questions, chapters, and I would take them up to the office and look through. I'll do that one next, and read a page on that, and within just a few days the first book was written. And almost as soon as that was published, we found the website was getting very, very big. So we took all of that out and put that in the second book. So that had written itself pretty much. And then lots happened between 2005 and 2016. We realised it was time to create autobiography. So since I was in my early 20s, I was keeping notes of my insights and realizations, experiences, and it was time to put them into a book, which I kept these notes for 20 odd years.
Oh, wow.
And thankfully, Windows 10 comes with speech-to-text software. I'm not doing a shout-out Windows 10, but it saved me an awful lot of work.
So, this is not Vista, I mean,
so literally, I'm just over a few weeks just reading into the microphone my notes from those, and that types it all out.
So do you ever revisit your earlier books then, and kind of in the sense that your mindset has changed or your understanding has changed, and you look back at what you've done previously and question it again?
You'd expect that to be the case. Because everything has moved in, and I'm very different now than I was when I wrote the first one. But whereas a lot of people, they have a spiritual experience, and there's some famous people, everything changed. They enter what they might call enlightenment at the time, but don't understand what happened to them. They spend a few weeks, months, if not years, trying to acclimatise and understand what they went through. Whereas for me, I had the information very early. So the knowledge, how it all fits together, how it all works, one's position within the one being, there's only one, of course, because everything is one. One's position in that, I had all the knowledge, all the insights. And I was had temporary experiences into being it, but none of them lasted, they were only temporary. So when I wrote the first book, I had all the knowledge.
Yeah.
It was several years later that the temporary experiences came back permanently. And so almost they were written before it had completely happened. So now I look back and they were almost written before their time.
Yeah.
So everything fits.
So as well as kind of helping others with these books, and would you say that it's your path to kind of finding kind of your purpose or your path to happiness?
What I teach?
Yeah.
To me, people look for spiritual teachings, and of course by spirit, this is another subject. We're here to talk about spirit as in connecting with spirit and spiritualism, and a spiritual life means very different things to different people. For me, the spirit is consciousness. Spirit is pure being, it is your essence. So the spiritual life is connecting with your own essence, and everything else can come into that, but being more spiritual is to be more conscious, more self-aware.
So would it link into what we were saying earlier about kind of the mind, body, soul, all being
everything, yes, indeed. Now, people will want to do that for different reasons. Some people want to have the answers to the universe. They want to understand how it all works.
It's 42. If you like Douglas Adams, it's 42.
I do remember that.
Are we doing that now?
You just have to know the question, don't you? So some people want to know how it all works, for knowledge. Others looking for the great experiences of being everything, which they read and hear about, of spiritual enlightenment. For me, it was just a need to end the unhappiness. As a teenager, very unhappy, and there were sayings, life's and then you die, that's life, life's unfair, and everyone accepted it's totally normal to be unhappy. And I wasn't going to accept it, I'd had too much. So I threw the gauntlet down to life. Either show me there's a purpose for this, or I'm out of here. I'm not taking it anymore. And I had a sitting with a psychic at the College of Psychic Studies in London at 17 years old, in a right emotional wreck. I'd gone in there, made this decision. Psychics are meant to be in touch with dead people. They should know there's a purpose to life. And if he can't tell me, pretty much I then visit my friends and family and say goodbye and I'm gone. Because I'm not going to take you. He doesn't know, no one knows. And he said to me, your problems are because you're already on a very high spiritual level and the energy is too strong and you can't handle it. And if you follow the spiritual path, you'll progress very quickly, but you don't have to.
So is this all detailed in your book then?
Oh yes, indeed. Detailed, 400 pages.
I was going to say this is quite a hefty read, but I suppose again you go into that kind of that high level of detail in here.
So that's how I started. I'll go on to the question what I teach, of course. That was all about, I did a spiritual awareness course there for a few weeks. That was all about visualization and the chakras and meditation and questioning and analysing. And after a year of that, I sat at home after college one day, waiting for the next thought, so I could analyse where it came from. And I realised I'd got as far as I could with that method. I just said to the four walls the words, I need a master. And suddenly I remembered a book, one of the many I'd bought over the previous year by this chap. And it was purely teaching, forget the questions, just be aware, just watch. And then I started a long journey of spending all day, every day, trying to stay conscious and watch. And the essence is that as one learns, when one is unhappy, the emotion comes up. And we're all taught from youngsters to go into the imagination, are you excited about that? Are you looking forward to that? Did you miss mummy and daddy? It's all about thinking about the thing that's making us emotional. And as therapists teach us, once we've experienced the emotion, it goes back down into the unconscious. And then next time a similar situation happens, the same emotion comes up again, we experience it again, and it goes back down again. That's how we all live. No one teaches us that if when the emotion comes up, you stay conscious, aware of the body, aware of where you are, the emotion, which is unconscious energy, can't survive. And it literally, it's dissolved. It becomes conscious. So every single time you become emotional then, the emotion comes up, experience it consciously, watch it as an observer. It can't survive, it dissolves, and the old karma, which is what this is, karma, is being resolved every time you're emotional. You're clearing out the unconscious.
So is that part of what you teach then, how
Totally.
to create that bridge between the conscious and the unconscious mind?
And it's simple, just being aware. It's so simple, people think, that can't be right, don't believe it, I'm not even going to try it. And it's literally being aware. Because emotion cannot survive in conscious awareness. It is unconscious energy. Of course, one still has to address the problems in one's life. I make the analogy that if your car's got a flat tyre, nobody's sitting there trying to dissolve the emotion. You've got to go and deal with it. But having done that, whatever it is, stay conscious, you still watch it, and it dissolves. And as likewise in the spiritual life, people are often trying to live in the moment, and they can spend 30 years, 2 hours a day, 4 hours a day, meditating, trying to stay in the moment. Don't know why they can't stay in the moment. It's because when we're unhappy and the emotion is driving the thinking mind and we can't stop, when we're not unhappy, when everything's fine, the same emotion in the unconscious is driving the thinking mind.
It's also interesting, isn't it?
So, if we can be conscious when there's a problem and dissolve the emotion, there's that much less emotion in the unconscious driving it when there is no problem. So every moment, every time you experience emotion consciously, you become more conscious and self-aware, less emotional, you've got less karma, your problems in your life get less, simply by experiencing life consciously.
So, I mean, Paul, would you say then kind of that difference between the conscious and the unconscious mind kind of spills over into what you do?
Yeah, most definitely. And, Nick, you touched upon this earlier on, is that, we are not taught to coexist physically and spiritually, and it creates an imbalance. And as we've touched upon, throughout, of course, for interviews, these different frequencies sort of clash and collide, and sometimes it kind of upsets the emotions, and we don't know how to balance it all up again because we've not been taught. And when we do come back in tune again with our spirituality, then suddenly things start to make sense. And You know, we can help to heal, you know, those past hurts, and but only once we've got it all back into balance and working together again.
And of course, some people kind of say that's what our dreams are about. It's the unconscious mind making itself known to somebody that's maybe not attuned to it.
Yeah.
But again, that sometimes can be linked into kind of that sort of idea of astral projection as well. Am I right? So like your dreams take you to another place.
This is my theory on dreams. Okay, somebody else may disagree with me. From the place of being a spirit medium, is that it's the subconscious, the soul, the essence of who we truly are, being free from the confines of the physical body during the sleep state to return and touch upon the spirit world where we interact, where we can interact with our loved ones, people that we've lost. Maybe we've got difficulties down here, maybe we're asking for help. And as we start to stir in the physical, the soul, the essence of who we truly are, comes back into the physical, and that's when we kind of wake up and go, oh, that was a bit of a weird dream, what was that all about? And the mind is trying to understand the spiritual journey. But if it's not been taught to understand the spiritual journey, it can't make sense of what's just happened, and it just suddenly becomes a weird dream.
Would you agree with that?
Yes, indeed. There are two. It said the only dreams I ever remember are generally the beginning and the end, let's say, sleep, which always tend to relate to things I remember. I can say, well, that's a strange dream. I look at it carefully, and I remember that's a scene from a movie. I remember being slightly disturbed, and that's how that's got there. But apparently, in the middle of sleep, it is said by psychics and mediums, and I'm not one of those, so you'll know about this and I don't, go into the astral and see the committee, I think they call it, and discuss life's plan and how it's going and things.
Yeah.
However, taking from the perspective everything is one, here of course there's 7 billion people and we're all separate and objects, objective world. And then you've got the psychic world in between where things are less physical, things that or it's energetic. Of course, everything is one. So when you go beyond that into your own self-awareness, suddenly there's not 7 billion people anymore. There's only one essence, and you realise that you're it, which can be terrifying at first. I remember when I first realised it, had the insight, and it was confirmed by the teacher I had. I sat for 3 days in my dressing gown and pyjamas, didn't bother to get dressed. Why do anything? Because the experience is in self-realization, I'm the only one here. If anybody, because there's only one, if you get into God realization, touching on the essence behind everything, you are it. There is no one else, there's nothing else. And nothing else. That's why it's called they say it's an illusion, the word Maya, you've heard that. Everything, even the separation. And when you touch with that, you realize I'm alone. There's nothing and no one else.
We could talk about this for hours.
And for me, I sat there for 3 days. In my dressing gown and slippers, without the telly on, just sat there in total shock. What I'd also learned is that it's the emotion with the reincarnation. It's the emotion that's not been made conscious. It's the attachment to being separate that comes back and carries on. And so if you die before you've dissolved or need to be here, you come back again. The reincarnation, you come back. So where we're going to, the spiritual development, is back to the one. But until then, there's no point in me ending it to escape the dream I was trapped in, because I just come back. So I was trapped in this room, didn't bother to get dressed, didn't bother to do anything for 3 days. I was in my early 20s, just sat there staring at the walls, complete shock, just given up. But I knew by then, because I've been doing it for 4 years, had to feel and stay conscious and watch the emotion. And after 3 days, the words arose in me. A dream it may be, but the dream goes on.
And that's kind of on the front of your book there.
That's what it's called.
That's what it's called. Fantastic.
Because the rest of the then next 20 years was waking up into the dream, but not just waking up connecting, but waking up to be the dream and the dreamer, and literally everything. Ramana Maharishi refers to everything is self. Literally, the physical environment becomes your own self.
Well, Nick, I can also say
I could go on forever.
You're not trapped in this room. We will let you go. Okay, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much indeed.
So we had a competition winner for somebody to longer session with you, Paul. Is that correct?
That's correct, yeah.
So, and I think Jilly's got the winning name there.
Okay, so the winner is, drum roll please, is Tasha Tiffin. Have we got Tasha in the audience? Oh wow!
Congratulations. So yeah, Elsie, we'll sort out the details after the show there, but you've won a private session with Paul there, and I think that brings us to the end of the show, Julie.
It does, thank you.
No, thank you all very much for watching. We've had some marvellous guests here on the show, and obviously thank you to you, Paul, as well. Don't forget, obviously you can like and subscribe on all of our social media platforms. Just look for Life Matters as part of Spiritual Productions. I've been Richard Stringer.
I'm Jilly Franks.
And hopefully today we've shown you a few things in life that really do matter.